Hello, this is Janice from Pinecone and Sparrow, and today I am going to walk you through my first ever art journal that I finished. I started it in June 2015 and it is now December 2015. Here's the front cover. I made it with patterned tissue paper with acrylics and markers, black markers, to make the flowers. Inside cover are the leaves here, and I used the same technique that I did on the front cover. These flowers here were actually the first page I did. It's thick acrylic paints on mixed media paper. I was just kind of playing around with the textures here. On this page with the flowers is, again, it's acrylic paint. I'm also trying to get more comfortable using text in my work. So on this page I wrote lyrics to one of my favorite songs on tissue paper and then pasted it in backwards. And that kind of seemed to take the preciousness off the words, so I was able to paint over the top of them quite easily. Bleeding Heart, and on this page I was working on these water droplets. Actually a pretty easy technique and a cool effect. On this page, I'm again just playing with text. Used some junk mail and just cut out words and pasted them on top. Not a fan necessarily of this, but it is one way to use text and good to experiment. On this page, I was looking at scratching in some of the design from the background. I painted it with a thick coat of acrylic first, and then just used an old credit card or something to scratch in the back, and then added the flowers on top with acrylics. This is one of my favorite pages here. I love the colors. Also the texture of the different papers I use. This is National Geographic that I altered. I think this is probably deli paper. Another experiment with flowers and thick paint. I started outlining some of the flowers with black marker and didn't really like that effect for this page. It works at other times, but not necessarily for this page. This is a blueberry field sketch that I worked on. I later used some of this same technique on a large collage that I made. Some blueberries. I think I used some texture paste. You can't see it necessarily, but there's texture on this page for the berries. This is another acrylic, just a sketch of a photograph that I did last year. Maybe will turn into a canvas at some point. I like the tree with the ocean in the background. This is a softer, kind of more subtle page. The background is tissue paper and other papers with hand stamps on the background, and just to add some texture. And I also used marker on this page in acrylics to sketch some plants from my garden. This is kind of a color study of an Anne Ryan collage, and then I later on the next couple of pages used those colors for my own paintings. This one is taken from a winter scene of a photograph I did last year. This one I was kind of playing with more abstract shapes, and I added a poem that I wrote. And this one I started off with red, didn't really like the page, and ended up covering up parts of it with these birds that I was practicing, sparrows, which I don't particularly like those either, but I like the texture, and it's just kind of fun just to play around and use up materials. Not all pages have to work in an art journal. For this page, I drew the shapes with using just one line. The mountains and the fence and the tree and rocks are all one line on both pages. And then I added the acrylic detail later. This one's a mixture of different papers and techniques. I think that's my grocery list on the background, pasted in backwards, with tissue paper trees and National Geographic paper rocks, and then acrylic paints for the plants. Another tree and fern page. Love the colors on that one. More plants and trees and rock walls. I use this, I don't know if it shows up in the picture, but this rock wall is actually pretty textured. I used a painting that didn't work and just ripped it up little pieces, and it made rocks in the rock wall. Another one of my favorite pages. This one, I like the colors on it, but again, I didn't really like the outlining. I was trying to bring those leaves out a little bit more from the page, and not really loving that effect. Maybe it's just not me. I had this portrait that I had painted a while and stamped a while ago and wasn't really sure what to do with it, so I cut the face and added it to this page, and then added these plants over the top of it. I like that effect. Not real comfortable making portraits yet, but I think it's fun to practice. This is a page that I did using a tutorial I found on YouTube, and the artist escapes me, but I did a blog post about it. You can check that on my website, pineconeandsparrow.com. It's a layering technique, and even though there's collage elements on here still, the surface of the page is rather flat, and I like that technique. It's different from some of the other ones I've used, and I probably will come back to this and explore that a little bit farther. More trees and ferns. These two pages I used a resist kind of technique to get some of the colors and designs. I like that process, and it reminds me of the Ukrainian egg decorating I used to do, and I probably will come back to that technique as well. This page I used candy wrappers for and junk mail for the details. And this one, these squares I had left over from another project I was doing, wasn't sure what to do it, so I just glued them into the art journal. I also like the barcodes on the junk mail that I found for the background, and then added the colorful flowers on top of that. I think this is one of my most successful pages. Really like this technique. Here's a winter scene, just using up some scraps. I think this is washi tape for the leaves, and some more candy wrappers for the berries. Just bits and pieces of tissue paper that I had stamped for the background. Another tree and plant page. The details are kind of subtle on this one, but I do like the colors. This one, I've been reading about Ouija boards and 1900s kind of thinking, and just kind of experimented with Ouija board. I may do some more of these, do a series. Back to the plants in boxes. I really like those. I think they're fun, kind of a little funky. And then kind of a winter scene with more trees and mountains and and National Geographic rocks, tissue paper, leaves, and candy wrapper, berries. And that's the last page, back to the back cover. So that's my journal. Thanks for watching, and I hope you will stay in touch on my Facebook page, Pinecone and Sparrow, or on my website. Thanks. Take care.